You're listening to The Hurt Locker, the podcast that opens the door on men's mental health. And tonight's guest, all over from the other side of the pond, Liam Nelson. Liam, welcome to The Hurt Locker.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
You were just saying behind before we started, how many hours behind or ahead are we compared to you now?
I think it's 5 hours. We've learned that daylight savings really threw that off by an hour because we thought it was 1 p.m. my time and 6 p.m. your time, but now it's actually 2 p.m. So it's 4 hour difference instead of a 5 hour. We got to figure it out though. International travel, man.
All of that.
Yeah.
But it's great to have you here. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm all right. Had kind of a crazy morning. Got my car window smashed. So that's always a fun development. That's why I was running a little behind for this podcast.
Okay, I'm not trying to. I'm going to introduce you in terms of what you do and all that. I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but it wasn't ice by any chance, was it?
No. It was just it was unattended vehicle. They were looking to get a trash bag full of things that I was gonna donate anyway. So really, it was a more direct donation. I just wish they hadn't smashed my window. Yeah, because whoever took it clearly needs it more than anyone who I could have donated to.
Of course. There's no point getting stressed about it.
Right.
So for the benefit of people, but I'm sure there's quite a few people who do know you, who is Liam Nelson?
I am a stand-up comedian. I'm based in New York City. I tour all over the world, mainly featuring for Gianmarco Soresi, Dusty Slay, Sam Morril, people like that. And then I also headline all over the country. And then I'll be coming to the UK this summer to headline out there as well. So
superb. Whereabouts in the UK?
It'll be Top Secret Comedy Club in London. And then I'm trying to set up some other spots. Yeah, sorry, I'm not supposed to talk about it. But
would you come to the Northwest by any chance?
What cities are up there? I'm trying to think because I came through and did a whole UK run last summer. So I made it up to like Manchester, Birmingham. I went down to Wales. So what's nearest you?
Okay, so the closest to us, I'm going to say behind gritted teeth, Manchester.
Okay.
So
there's some beef there. Liverpool, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Not only in sports, music, fashion, etc. Just people generally.
Right. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I'm getting it was cool to get a sense of like when I was touring around. We were there for a couple of weeks, so I got to kind of go to all the different kind of parts of of England specifically, and then also pop out to some of the other countries around. So it was cool to get to see kind of the different feel of the people in every different place, you know,
and the accents as well.
Oh yeah. I do feel like I could have clocked the northern accent, if only because Game of Thrones taught me that the people in the north have this kind of accent, and then like they were accurate.
What are you saying? What are you saying, Liam?
All I'm saying, media does a good job of informing subconsciously. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So tell me, you're a comedian. How long have you been a comedian for?
About 7 years.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
26.
You're a baby.
I know. I started when I was 19 years old. So I got my don't tell me I got my first fake ID to do comedy, not to do anything fun or illicit, just sneak into comedy clubs and do open mics.
You know, it's funny you should say that. I've never had a fake ID in my life. I don't know.
Well, you guys can drink at 18. I feel like that makes it a little easier not to need one.
Oh yeah, because usually it's 21, isn't it?
Yeah. I could have served and died in the military for several years by the time I was able to have a beer legally.
Wow. Can we touch on what's going on currently?
Sure, yeah.
You're in New York, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I've always associated New York with being outside of the US in terms of it's got its own identity, it's got its own character, it's got its own politics. And I equate it to similar cities in Liverpool. I mean, across the UK, Liverpool being one, potentially Newcastle, maybe down in Bristol and that, you know. Tell me about, were you born and raised there?
No, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I moved up here about 3-ish years ago to do comedy full time.
Okay, so does any of your material pick up on what's going on currently?
So me in particular, I do less like grand topical stuff just because I feel like I'm not always the most like expert person to talk about it. But I do the stuff I do talk about is like anything through a lens of disability. I'm disabled, so I talk a lot about that experience in my comedy, and a lot of things that are happening in the world kind of filter their way through that, you know, kind of disability lens. And so I think that's where I feel like I'm like enough of an expert to where I feel like it's worth talking about on stage, because that's a big philosophy of my comedy is so many people get up there and they just start saying things that they think are funny, but you have to have like a reason for people to engage with you and want to hear more from you and to get on board with your journey. So I think being able to focus on the experience that I feel like I can speak the most to is kind of how I do it. But I do some topical stuff.
Okay. Just one thing in terms of New York. How was the new how was Zoran doing?
Oh, I love him. I mean, so we had two snowstorms kind of back to back.
Yes. Yes.
One where there was no new program, like he hadn't been able to institute the new program yet of the snow shoveling, where he basically had an open call for anyone who wanted to be paid $30 an hour to shovel snow for the city. You could just go apply at your neighborhood city center. And the second snowstorm, when that was in effect, I mean, I've never seen the sidewalk so clear in my life. I wish they could get people to do that for dog poop every day. That'd be sick. But the snow was, I mean, just like little things like that, just seeing when your money goes back into like paying people to improve your city is such a simple thing that we just like it's crazy how that has never been offered.
It just makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, why would we pay an agency who's going to farm it out to, you know, 6 other agencies and white label it and make, you know, tens of thousands of dollars when we can just have whoever lives on that block clear their block?
Well, I saw the comparison. If it gone out to tender in the contract, it was in the multi-millions.
Yeah.
Compared to getting New Yorkers to clear their own pavements, etc.
Yeah,
Hundreds
and
of thousands.
So much more effective too. And the people were excited. I mean, you know, it's a snow day, so a lot of people are out of work and they might need the money. There you go. It's a job that pays better than half of these people's day job that they're able to go do. So it gives them like a little bonus, like a snow day bonus almost. And everything he's doing, I was like, if you could tell, a big supporter of his getting into office. I think all the policies he's focusing on are really important, like the universal 2 in childcare that he's pushing in New York, and that is he's been able to kind of leverage the entire state to get on board with too. He's kind of moved the governor of New York to be more accepting of those policies as well through his power as a popular candidate in the city. So I'm incredibly pleased with how things are going. It truly like a lot of solace to take that at least like someone on our local level feels like they actually care and are actively trying to like improve our conditions. Yeah. Well, he's a New Yorker. He's lived here his whole life. I feel like he's more of a New Yorker than I am. So I trust him to make the right decisions for the people that he grew up with, you know?
Long may that continue.
Yeah. Okay, I hope it's the start of something new, but yeah.
Yes, I do too, but we shall see. We shall see. You've spoke about, in terms of your work, your act, what you talk about. You're talking from a position of lived experience, and you spoke about having a disability for the benefits of people listening and watching. Can you talk a little bit about your disability?
Yeah, so I have a thing called Marfan Syndrome. It's a genetic connective tissue disorder. It's part of the reason I'm 7 feet tall. Just, I know it doesn't come across on the podcast.
Say that again for people if they missed it the first time.
I'm 7 feet tall, 2 meters 13. I know you guys use both, so just in case there's any Europeans in the audience. Yeah, so very, very tall guy, very skinny, if you can tell by just kind of the camera angle. So it attributes to that for sure. I'm still one of the taller people I know with Marfan syndrome, so I'm a little extra tall, but the main way it impacts my life is like a lot of chronic pain issues. It can have eye issues, lung issues. Because it's connective tissue, basically everything that holds you together is slightly more elastic and weaker. So you just have to be super intentional about all of your health care, all of your just the way you move your body. I can live a pretty normal life. Like I've recently started going to the gym regularly and like, you know, gotten on a really good, I'm probably in the best place of my life so far of routine, trying to keep my body healthy, but it's just a matter of like making sure you don't push yourself too hard and are just aware of all the different kind of facets of upkeeping your care. So, for example, like in June of last year, I had an open heart surgery to repair my aorta, which is like the main valve to your heart, because it was dilated. So there was a risk of it dissecting and basically like a hole ripping in my aorta, which is obviously not great. So I got that fixed over the summer. Actually, I was in Europe doing that tour, and then I got home, and then the day after I got home, I went in for open heart surgery, and then I did the recovery for that, and then did actually a stand-up comedy special about the open heart surgery 3 weeks after to the day, where I show off like the chest scar, and I do it in a hospital gown, and the whole crowd is also other people that I've met through the Marfan Syndrome community, and they've also all had heart surgery. So it was like a really fun kind of collective experience to be able to reflect on that surgery process. But it's a pretty common surgery in a lot of our lives. So the main things is like eyes, lungs, heart are kind of the big ones.
When did you first receive that diagnosis?
When I was 11. So that was kind of a big journey for me. Probably my biggest journey as a human being. I guess what would be my hurt locker was getting that diagnosis at 11, and going straight home and Googling what Marfan syndrome was. And all I could find is, approximately 30-something-year-old life expectancy, which is not the case anymore. It's not like it's back then. There were some old research, there weren't the life-saving surgeries there are now. There weren't the medications that I take daily to help, prolong all of your organs and that kind of thing. So there's so much has been done just since the time I've been diagnosed to where you can live a pretty normal life with it. But obviously, as an 11-year-old, even though your doctor tells you you're going to be fine, that's their job to tell you that you're going to be fine. So it's tough to like be like, oh yeah, of course, the guy who told me I have a disability, of course he's going to say you're going to be okay. Like even if you have stage 4 cancer, they're not like, you're screwed, buddy. Like, they always have to make it as best case scenario. So I was kind of.
Do you think that's the case with the physicians, etc.? They'll give you the best case scenario, or
it's not maybe not the best case, but they'd present it in the most palatable way, I think, for you, and with the most optimism possible. Because, like, if they, I think the more they know that it's going to be tough, the more I think optimism they make sure to include in the diagnosis. You know what I mean? To encourage you to not give up, because it can be overwhelming. Like for me in particular, I went home, I found this information, I kind of checked out of life. You can see my grades like dropped off completely that year. So when I was 6th grade to 8th grade in the U.S., so I was like 10 to 12 years old. Or 10 to 13, I was like kind of on autopilot. I didn't. Luckily, I had a passion for filmmaking as a kid, so I would like still enjoy making movies with my friends, and I was really engaged in all that. But when it came to like anything I didn't want to do, you couldn't get me to do it. I was like, and I would be the kid to be like, yeah, well, I'm gonna die by 30, so like I'm not gonna waste my time doing this. And like a 12-year-old's walking around with that kind of like weight of mortality on his shoulders is not a good foundational way to build an adult self. So it took me a few years. I went to the conference where I recorded that stand-up special about the surgery. The Marfan Foundation, which is a nonprofit that advocates for the Marfan community, they do an annual conference. And so when I was 14, I went to Chicago and I met literally like 300 plus people with my same condition, some of whom were in their 70s. Like I saw with my own eyes, like what I had decided for myself was wrong. And so I came back from that conference, like a 3-day conference in Chicago, with an entire new family, essentially, of people within the Marfan community, a new perspective on life, and like a renewed, like, that moment where I feel like a lot of older people have it if they like slip in the shower when they're like, 80, and they're like, oh, that could have been really bad. And then they had this like kind of new lease on life. I had that at 14. So I kind of got to, so since then it's kind of been because I now know I have this time, I am very intentional with how I spend it, and very like, I've never been with someone to be like casually do something. Everything I do, because like even with stand up, for example, I was a video producer. I started doing stand up as a hobby to make friends, and then slowly but surely it became my full-time career. So it's I just don't like do things lightly anymore,
I was just thinking, when you received that diagnosis at 11, you've used the word mortality, but was there a sense of what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I think like,
and I'm
having...
going to be specific now. Was there a... I think you used the phrase checked out, but
yeah,
did you think about checking out from life? Did you think about dying?
So I think it was, which I'm honestly thankful that it manifested in this way and not in a more kind of actively depressed way.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever trying to take myself out of the world. I was just like, oh, the world, like, I have an expiration date and it's when I'm 35. So like it was like operating under the assumption that like my body would just cease to exist at 35, and it was never like, I never wanted to speed that process up, luckily. And I don't think it, like, the dread of it made me cower in on myself. It made me just more like really pursue the things I cared about. I think I honestly, like, it made me a lot of who I am today, just this whole having to navigate those feelings that come along with that heavy of a thing to be dropped on you at 11 to 14, like that whole process. So yeah, I think I don't know, it's tough. I think, yeah. Sorry, I got a little lost there at the end there.
No, go. I'm just listening to you, free flowing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I don't think I was ever like suicidal as a result of it, or if you can say that. I know you have to
You can.
about that on time. Okay.
This is what this is all about.
I figured the Men's Health podcast is.
Come on,
I know the internet gets mad at you for saying words like that, so you gotta. But yeah, I think it was. I'm thankful that, I honestly am more depressed, these days than I ever was as a kid, because there was at least this, like, it felt like it was out of my hands, like,
yes.
Whereas now, when I feel down, it's a result of my own actions and doing, which is, and that's when you're like, all right, well, maybe I should fucking, but it's not no serious like thoughts of that, but I definitely, it's funny, you'd think I would have been depressed like that as a kid, but it's less so. It's now that I have the option to live a full life, that's when I'm like, well, maybe not. So
okay.
Yeah.
What support did you have around you once you received your diagnosis?
My parents both were good. I mean, it was varying levels of, it's tough for them as well. Neither of them grew up with any sort of, like,
Did you ever have arguments with them, like, you don't understand what I'm going through?
Ever. Talk about maybe last week. But my mom has, like, scoliosis, which I also have as, like, one of my laundry list of things that come along with Marfan syndrome, and she loves to be like, oh no, I get it, like, I also have scoliosis. And I'm like, girl, like, I remember I was like 17, and she was super nervous taking me in I had a full chest reconstruction surgery. So they had to, like, cut me open, take all my cartilage out, two of my ribs out, and, like, fully rebuild my chest because it was, like, indented and pushing on my organs. And so the morning of that surgery, she was nervous, so she had me split my Valium with her, me as the patient. So this was like, yep, all right. Mom needs it more than me, I guess, right now. I was like fine, and she was freaking out. So it's like, there's definitely, my dad, I think, was a little bit more on top of things. He's the one who facilitated me getting to that conference and went with me the first time. But I definitely, my mom was always kind of, is tough to, like, for her to talk about it. I remember one time I had some friends from the Marfan community come stay at our house, and we were all talking about, I think when you talk with other people with your same disability, you get into kind of darker, more niche topics in a more comfortable way than like non-disabled people are comfortable with sometimes. So we were talking about, like, how funny it is that, like, if we were to be cremated, the only things left would be the things that are, like, put into us, like, to help keep us alive, like the metal pieces. And we were talking about how, like, her grandma, a friend of mine's grandma, was cremated having Marfan syndrome, and they kept all the little, like, metal pieces and made jewelry out of it. And that my mom, like, almost, she was like, had to leave the room, and she's like, I just don't know if I can have them stay here. Like, I'm like, okay. Well, it's like, I need to have, like, comfort around this, because, like, even though you can live a long life with Marfan syndrome, I've still lost 5 or 6 people I know personally since I've started attending these conferences, because the unfortunate part about being bound together by all having a shared life-threatening genetic disorder is it threatens your life, so it's the same reason we're all brought together, is it's percentage-wise, you're going to have a lot more loss in that community than you will anywhere else.
Because you're 26, because you're, for most 26-year-olds, they won't have experienced as much loss as what you've had.
Yeah.
How does that reconcile itself? How do you strike a balance?
It's interesting. So I have a fiance, my partner. We lost our cat pretty tragically a couple years ago, or I guess 4 years ago now. Crazy. Like we heard him get killed by coyotes outside our house. Like we could hear it, and we were like running around the neighborhood. And the process of like grieving that, like obviously we were both very upset for a week or so, and then I started to kind of like heal and move on and like put those feelings in different places and just try to like process it. And I think there was definitely some like it was tougher for her to process that because she hadn't had that road already kind of cut through the brush of what is like grief. And so like, but I do think like when she had a couple other losses later in the year, it made it seemed easier in ways like that was just like the first one. And I'm thinking back to like, I mean, I guess one of my first ones was like when I was 15 or 16, one of my teenage friends from Marfan conference died suddenly, tragically, and it was like because of like the complications of Marfan syndrome. And that was like, I think, a big moment where I had just gotten this newfound sense of like, oh, life is great. I love all these people. And then one of them died. And I'm like, oh. So it
Pull
was this
back a little
big
bit.
up. And
Yes.
then it's like, okay, well,
Yes.
let's even it out a little bit. It's like, I love being part of the Marfan Facebook group, but I have to have the notifications turned off because they depress me. Because it's like, well, someone else is struggling with something, and someone else is like unable to afford their medical bills, and it's like it's a tough world for my community.
That's what, just the craziness of you saying the inability to afford medical
Oh,
bills.
I forgot who I'm talking
Wow.
to. So I forgot who I'm talking to.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, it
No.
sucks. Yeah, the universal health care needs to happen ASAP. It is ridiculous. Yeah, I had luckily for me, I am in New York City where there are public options, and I was able to get my heart surgery on the public option. But even then, it would have been thousands of dollars, and so my way of getting my bill down was luckily a insurance CEO is on the board of the foundation that I do a lot of work with, and I'm like a camp
Wow.
counselor for. And so he called them personally and negotiated my bill down to like a reasonable amount. So like, but not everyone has access to an insurance CEO who likes your
They
comedy
definitely,
and wants
they
to make sure
definitely
you're like
do not.
taken care of. Exactly. So it's like I was incredibly lucky, but even that is like that's what it takes to get through a surgery and not be in debt as a young person is like you have to have someone who's a CEO in that industry like vouch for you. Um yeah, it's very stressful for sure, especially as a person in a non healthcare providing field. I don't
Yes.
have healthcare through my job. There's no union I can join of stand-up comics that will provide me healthcare. There's no collective bargaining on like benefits that I get. I just have to pay for my own care and then hope that I keep getting booked to keep doing that. And I do think there would be a little bit of anxiety taken off if I could get care regardless of my situation. Shout out NHS, but
Since the age of 11, how many times would you say you've had surgery?
three major ones. So I got four major ones. So I had knee plates put in when I was 11, because my knees had kind of grown inward and they were knocking on each other and getting bruised. And then I got my both my tibia and fibula on both legs cut in half and rotated because my feet were turned in and I would like trip over myself constantly. And then they also took the knee plates out on that one, so it was kind of a double whammy. And then the 17-year-old chest reconstruction, and then this recent aortic repair. So I'm pretty good though. I have a few
You're
hospital records.
smiling, and I'm just speechless.
Yeah. I don't, the hospital's always been somewhere where like I kind of relish in being in such a bad spot and still keeping a good attitude. Cause like I think I started out as a stand-up comic low key when recovering from surgery. I would always try to make the nurses laugh. And or like at doctor's appointments, I'm the guy who they're like they have a bunch of med students, they bring them in and I talk to them for like an hour, and they're like all like, oh wow, yo, you're willing to talk about that? Oh wow, because I've been talking about my condition since I was 17. The Marfan Foundation, who did that conference, I was working on a documentary as a teenager about Marfan syndrome, so I was traveling all around the country, interviewing people with Marfan syndrome and doing speaking engagements about my disability at like 17. So I've always been good about talking about my experience. Just the transition to comedy was like, oh, let me just put some jokes in there as well, you know. But it's I think gets a lot of the same message across, and it's I feel very comfortable in that wheelhouse, and so that's why you see me smiling about like, because like one, I'm through it, you know, all these things I'm talking about, I'm not currently dealing with that, you know, so it's nice to, it's like the, you know, if you had your arm up in the air for 2 hours and you finally put it down, you've never appreciated how much your arm doesn't hurt all the time, you know. So I think it's just like you have a little bit more. I just like being like, you know, not gallows humor, but like just being like the spunky fun guy in the really tough situation, you know. And that's the whole nature of that surgery special. Is like I did it literally 3 weeks after the surgery, so I have a freshly like almost open scar that I'm like showing off to the crowd in a hospital gown, kind of just talking very flippantly about like how miserable of an experience surgery is, but in a way that like I think they can get on board with. So it's yeah, I enjoy having things like that in my rear view and then reflecting on them because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going through that right now. That's sick.
How large is the community in America, in the United States?
So it's thought that like one every around 2,500 people have a connective tissue disorder similar to Marfan syndrome. So Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is another one that's kind of similar. That's a much more commonly diagnosed one these days. And then Loeys-Dietz is a third one. So those three, they're all represented by the same nonprofit. So I'd say like if you're counting everybody, probably like 20,000. I mean, there's an international community as well. A lot of people will like Skype into the conferences or like fly in from different countries to be present. But the actual like present at the conferences contingent is, I'd say, probably a couple thousand who like engage with the community actively.
Okay, I was gonna ask you in terms of other luminaries who historically who have had Marfan.
Oh, Abraham Lincoln is the one that we claim publicly. I mean, we don't know he had it,
I'm glad you said that word publicly.
Yeah.
I'm just holding back on one now, but
oh yeah, is it Osama bin Laden? Is it that one? Yeah, that one's my least favorite. Oh, Peter Mayhew. So Peter Mayhew that's a crazy story as well. He unfortunately did not have Marfan syndrome, and I found that out because while I was working on that Marfan syndrome documentary, I flew to Texas to interview him. And I sat him down for an interview, did not hit record. I was like, oh man, it's so nice to meet someone who's done so much having Marfan syndrome. And he goes, oh, I don't have Marfan syndrome. I have pituitary gigantism, totally different thing. And I'm so embarrassed as a 17-year-old. I go, oh, I'm sorry to waste your time. Pick up the camera, leave. Don't record a single I could have just filmed him saying, I don't have Marfan syndrome. He died like 3 months later. So now the Marfan community, who all think he has it, I'm the only one who knows for sure that he didn't. And now I made the mistake of telling one community figure that I know this. And so every time someone says that he has it in the Facebook group, they tag me to be like, nope, Liam's here to spoil the party. I'm like, he's gone. You know, like, we'll just take him at this point. Like Abraham Lincoln, we don't know if he had it or not. It's like in the past. So I don't think we're taking, we don't need to keep making everyone sad that he didn't have our thing. But yeah, it's tough. And then I think Osama bin Laden's the one where I'm like, we didn't have to diagnose him with Marfan syndrome before we chucked him into the ocean. Did we really had to do that? Like, we threw him in the ocean. We had to check what diseases he had first. Like it wasn't a pre-existing condition. It was probably the bullets you shot him with. I think. I'd guess.
Yes.
But yeah, we don't have a lot of great. There's a couple currently active notable figures of Marfan syndrome who I won't name by name because they are also kind of problematic.
Okay.
It's been a really fun journey. That's why I'm trying to get this comedy career going so we can have one not shitty celebrity. It's tough.
Yes. Indeed.
Troye Sivan supposedly has it, but he's never engaged with the community at all. So
who was that?
Troye Sivan, the pop star.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just hasn't ever talked to us, so he doesn't really like us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
something popped into my mind. Have you ever been to China?
I have not, but that is a thing. So my sister is adopted from China, and my parents going there. One thing they would always tell me is like, "Oh, Liam, if you go there, like you gotta be ready," because
You've
I
got
get
you've got to be ready.
well, and don't you worry, I get a good amount of practice on a daily basis.
Yeah,
I've missed
but not
I've
like
missed two
China.
flights. I've missed two flights because there was a line to take pictures with me in the airport. And I didn't
Wow.
realize that I was running behind, and they closed the door in my face after I was like, they're like, "Excuse me, just real quick, can I just take a picture real quick?" And then four other people get behind them, just real quick, just real quick. People are very entitled to my time and energy. It's very funny. They see me as like I had a tour group in Times Square come up to me and be like, "Excuse me, sir, they're tourists. Can they have a photo with you?" With a human being? Like I'm not a part of their walking tour. Like I'm not.
Absolutely. How far can your, for want of a better word, how far does your kindness stretch? And
Oh
are the days whereby you just say, "I'm not going to take this anymore"?
yeah. So I'm pretty go along, get along because I think if I got pissed every time someone was weird or rude to me, I would be seen as an asshole because I would be constantly prompted to be mean to people. Because the stuff people, I mean, almost every person I've ever met, the first thing they say to me is, "Oh my God." Like it's like like exclamation. It's like, "Oh." Like anytime like I went in for a job interview. I came around the corner and the guy goes, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "All right, we're off to a hot start." Just terrify the interviewer. Uh Yeah, my roommate is hard of hearing, and so it's really fun because I don't walk very loud, and so I just kind of appear places, and I frighten him constantly. Because I'll do like a full round of cooking behind him before he notices that I'm there, and then all of a sudden he turns around and there's just 7 foot of guy looming over you. Um, yeah. So people are. I have. There's one where I'm a plain story. Obviously, I feel like those are usually when you get the most like aggression out of people. I was boarding a plane. It was like one of those like early flights where like the check-in terminals aren't even turned on yet in the check-in area. Like you have to go to the desk to tell them. They're like, "Oh, we just have one lady here for the whole airport." So we're flying super early in the morning. I'm boarding the plane. It's one of the like small planes where I can't stand fully, so I'm like, already bent over at the shoulder, and walking down the aisle of the plane when I get like a tap from behind, and I have my earbuds in. I'm like, I'm gonna just pretend that that didn't happen. I assume that it's just someone, asking me to move over or something. And they keep tapping, and then I'm like, oh, this is someone who wants my attention. And then I turn around, smack my head on the overhead bin while trying to turn around, like almost seeing stars level hit my head because I was like annoyed. So I was like, "What?" And then in the process of the what, I was like, "Bam!" And I turn around, and he's like, "I know you get this all the time, but can I have a picture with you?" And I'm like, first of all, to acknowledge that this happens to me constantly, like you're not getting points for
Why would you
self-awareness.
do that?
Like
Why
it's like,
would
oh,
you do that?
like I know if I punch you in the face right now it would hurt, but can I do it anyway? Like it's like just because you know what the repercussions are going to be doesn't mean it makes it any better. So I'm like, no, can you just find me after we deboard the plane? Like I'm currently boarding the plane. Like I'm like, just find me after. Like I didn't even tell him no. I was like, find me after we get off the plane because I can't stand up straight. Why would you want a photo of me hunched over? Why would you don't want me to stand up straight in the photo? And he's like, come on, man, come on. And I'm like, no, man, we're boarding a plane. All right. And I started to get a little short. I mean, I don't know. Is it considered short when they're being that much of a dick to you?
Not at all. Not at
So
all. Come
I'm
on,
like,
read the room. Literally
I'm like,
read
come
the
on, man, just
room.
like find me later. All right. Like find me later. He's like, God, you don't have to be a dick about it. Come on. And then he
Wow.
like storms off to his seat. I'm like, all right, brother. Well, guess who's not
Wow.
getting a photo now? You.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's just like such a crazy thing that a grown man's day was like ruined by me not taking a picture with him. Like it just the like I cut straight to some people's like lizard brain sometimes, and I can like see it. Like at bars, a dude one time came up. He was super drunk. He's like 5 foot tall. He comes up. He's like, "Pick me up." pick me up. And I'm like, no, man, I can't do that. Like, I'm tall, not strong. I kept saying, I'm tall, not strong. And then he's like, no, come on, man, just pick me up. And I'm like, and then my friend comes over. He's like, is that grown man asking you for uppies right now? Like, it's like uppies, like just an insane way to act around another human being. For like, he's like a 45-year-old man asking then like 21-year-old to pick him up. Like, it just silliness.
You've been in a relationship, you said 4 years.
Yeah, since high school. How
was the dating game for you?
Short.
And is she a keeper then?
She's definitely a keeper. Definitely a keeper. We've been dating since high school, so we got together when we were 18, and we've done long distance. It's like she's why I moved to New York, partly too, because she was in school up here, and so I would like fly up to visit her once a month for 4 years while doing my video business. So just going deep in debt, visiting her. But once she got out of school, she moved into an apartment with her friends up here. It's friends I've known since we were both 18, so it's nice to have people that I've known for years who kind of we live with, and we live with all them now. So, it's been fun. She's always been someone who I think really like understood me. She went to her first Marfan conference 4 months into us dating. She was actually her.
Yeah.
She wanted
to get it.
She was like, we're in. She's like, and what's crazy is a couple weeks before her first conference, we do this camp together that we've done now for like pretty much the whole time we've been together. It's a Marfan camp specifically for kids with Marfan Syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos, and Lois-Dietz. So we're both camp counselors for it. And we were like I was the only boys counselor the first year we did it, and I'm like the one who kind of poked the foundation until they agreed to do like a week-long summer camp specifically for kids with connective tissue disorders. And so she was willing to be a camp counselor again within 3 months of us dating. Like she was about to go off to college. We had started dating a couple months before she did that, and then she was like, "Yep, all right, I'll go spend a week volunteering at a camp full of disabled kids." And she like, I think really got the full sense of what it's like to live with Marfan syndrome within those first couple months, and like wasn't scared off by it. Like, I love my parents, but they've never been. I mean, my dad is better than my mom, but like they've never been the best at handling that type of thing. And I could just see in her in that moment, I'm like, oh, this is who I want with me during surgeries. Like, it's not my parents. It's like, this is someone who can like handle being a partner to someone like this. Cause she was already, at 18, willing to fly to California to go be at a medical conference for 3 days just to meet a bunch of my friends, when like we both couldn't afford to do that. And then she's done the camp with me every year since. So like I'm no longer the only boys counselor, thank goodness, but we've grown it to like 60 plus kids now. So it's really cool. We do it every summer. So I think that's like a big example of like, oh yeah, who else like would I ever be with? Because like they would have to fill those shoes. You know what I mean?
100%. So what, Marfan syndrome aside, what bad parts of you does she tolerate?
I'm definitely, I think, a little over like confident in my recollection of things. I think I don't have as good of a memory as I think I do sometimes.
You claim
yeah. You know how it is. They're like, no, that didn't happen, and then like it definitely did. Like I'm not trying to gaslight you, but I guess I've already gaslit myself, and it's spreading. So I'm trying to be better about that. Trying to be more like, oh no, you're probably like, I'm not gonna say like that didn't happen. It's like, okay, well I guess my recollection is different on that. Like that's my bad. Like taking more personal responsibility for not remembering things. I think it's mostly that. It's just like I think we're different people in certain ways. Like she likes to go out and dance a little bit more than I do. Like it's a little bit more of a nightlife person, which is funny as like a stand-up comic. I'm not comfortable in like a big crowd, partially because the entire crowd is staring at me the whole time. Like it's tough when you're like, oh, I have a joke about it where like, I've done psychedelics in public before, and it's like, oh, the worst part about doing psychedelics in public is the feeling that everyone's staring at you, and they're not staring at you; they're all staring at me. It's like like you don't notice it until you enter like a big full room, but you're like, oh, Oh, they're all looking at me every 10 to 13 seconds. So I'm just like kind of performing low key for this room of people. That's why I think I like comedy, because I'm like, at least that is like an amount of time that's like designated for me to be on in front of a room, versus I kind of just have to be on all the time, because like even on just like a casual interaction on the street, they will never forget that. You know what I mean?
No.
Like if the 7-foot guy who lives in their neighborhood like is mean to them, I'm gonna be the new villain of the neighborhood. Like I remember a couple weeks. I live in like Hamilton Heights, a little above Harlem in New York, and it's a Dominican neighborhood. So it's like I look very different than a lot of the folks who live here. And th- there's I remember my first week, or a few weeks into living here, I had a dude come up and be like, "Hey man, we've all been talking about it. How tall are you?" And like the way he said, "We've all been talking about it," I'm like, "Oh, there's like a neighborhood wide bet as to how tall I am." Yeah, and
You know
then
where
I
that
remember,
you know where that took me to? Saving Private Ryan, where they're all
yeah,
deciding what Tom Hanks's career was
yep,
before joining. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just like having, but I enjoy it. I think they, you can bring a lot of joy to people with just being myself, which is cool. I enjoy it when people get really excited and they're like, "Wow, like that's awesome!" But it's definitely, you have a lot of, it makes it tougher to be in those kind of social situations. So she definitely puts up with me being a little bit grumpy. I think I'm already a little bit like the nature of going, in the last year I had open heart surgery, shaved my head bald, and so I'm already like a 60-year-old man essentially. And so I think I have like some of the crotchetiness about me, like the
Mm.
kind of, oh, get off my lawn kind of energy. So I think she definitely does a lot to keep me youthful and more, happy. I think she's just she appreciates the world a lot more than I do.
Oh,
So I think,
I think you're unfair to yourself there,
yeah,
because I get a sense of you do enjoy the world.
I do,
You
but I think
know,
the way she does it is like she'll walk outside and be like, "Oh, that bird in that tree, oh," and like start crying. I'm like,
that's next level
God,
stuff,
I
though, isn't
wish I could just get that much out of a sunny day. It's like
it?
just I really I admire it a lot in her. I think she does a lot to help me like see it through her eyes sometimes too, which is nice. Like she just like brings me down to earth a little bit and is like, "Hey, like let's be here together," and then like appreciate it like how I'm appreciated. I'm like, great, because I'm always thinking about 1,000 other things, and I think it's a good thing for me. Is I'm very much on top of like my professional life, and it's a thing that I'm very proud of. Like I think I've done a good job building the career that I've built, but I never really turn it off because it's a self motivated thing. So I have a hard time like separating work and life.
Okay.
So because so much of my work is talking about my life, so it feels crazy to be like, well, I'm in a
Switch it off
conversation with
now.
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm in a conversation with someone and I say something new and interesting that I haven't said before that they laugh really hard at in conversation, I'm like, all right, I'm so sorry. I do have to pull up my phone and write that down right now. I'm so sorry. I'm not a full person at any time. I'm a comedian first and a person second, but she helps bring that person ship back up to the first.
I'm sure there's loads of questions that I haven't asked, but a genuinely serious question is about whether or not Marfan syndrome is it hereditary.
Yeah.
Have you and
So
your partner contemplated having children? And if so, what have
we've
you have
talked
to?
about it. I think it's right now we're both a little young and not quite in like a financial place to where we want to do it. And I think it's like we're going to decide whether or not we want to do it a little bit closer to that time. But I think if we did end up doing it, there's luckily again with the developments that have happened just in the time that I've had Marfan syndrome. There's you can do like gene therapy, which is expensive, but it's effective. I have a friend who had two biological kids, and he has Marfan syndrome. His wife does not. So there should be a 50-50 shot of your kid having Marfan syndrome. Neither of his kids have it, and they're living happy, healthy lives. So I think that would probably be, uh, if we went biological, that would be kind of the way we'd go. But I think if we're also talking a lot about like fostering kids, because she grew up with a family who fostered kids, and obviously my sister's adopted. So I think we both like have an openness to that dynamic as well, just like trying to help out kids for an amount of time and then see if that's like the right thing for us. But yeah, I think we've talked about it, but I don't think any way we go, we would have a kid with Marfan syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because like, and that's like a big topic of conversation in the community. Some of the most people I respect the most in the Marfan syndrome community have had kids intentionally without using any sort of like gene therapy, and they ended up having Marfan syndrome. And like, that's, I can't knock people for that. Like, it's definitely a tough thing to have something and then be like, oh, but God forbid my kid has that. I'm like, but like, I know what my life has been. I
Yeah.
don't want that for someone else if I can help it, like, and then, sure, it's expensive, but like, I think it's worth that. If I could pay, whatever gene therapy cost is right now to fix all of the Marfan syndrome related things that I have in my life, I would pay
You
that
take it.
no problem. So I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. So I've lived long enough to where I feel like I can make that decision for them.
Yeah. Is Marfan syndrome more common in men as opposed to women?
I think it's pretty even. It's genetic, so it's funny. It's common in like the Mormon and Catholic communities, because of the lack of
Oh.
protection. So
Oh.
yeah, because
Oh.
one Catholic dad's got Marfan syndrome, and his 12 Catholic kids got it, and now their 12 Catholic kids got it, and it's like that's how you get more disabled people. Get a genetic disability into into any community that prioritizes like high birth rates, and you'll have plenty of people with Marfan syndrome.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but it's pretty evenly represented otherwise, like across gender and race kind of lines.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. In terms of
Yeah,
race, is there a predisposition to one race as opposed to another?
they haven't seen that thus far, so I don't think so.
Okay. I was going to ask in terms of the treatment, is the treatment different or interactions with society different for males as opposed to females?
I think just with the way that the world talks about men and women's bodies, I think inherently is tougher for women to live with something that makes you look so different than everyone else. I think, with me, I'm seen as like an unwatered NBA player. A woman with my level of like stature and kind of would be seen as like, oh, are you okay? Are you anorexic? Like a lot of my friends, that's a big thing that they hate being asked about is like, oh, are you anorexic? It's like, nope, just genetically like skinny. Like, it's just part of it. And then there's also like this expectation that you get where you should be skinny with Marfan syndrome, and then there's like it's tough to maintain that if because you can put on weight, but only in like I only get weight only on like my stomach, so I can have a little bit of a beer gut, and the rest of me looks like I'm starving. So
Yeah.
it like weight gets put on you in weirder ways. So I think just women inherently, because of the way society is formed, have a tougher time with that because men are slightly less like nitpicked about their body, I think, in those ways. But I think, yeah, I think otherwise it's somewhat similar, like parallel at least.
Okay. I'm just going back. What was it like for you before your diagnosis, growing up, being in school?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird. Because
Not
I'd
what
never
was it
met anyone.
traumatized you?
No, I just like it was just always this like, oh well, everyone. I I I had a kind of a complex as a kid about not being liked or not being like included. I was never like the core member of a friend group when I was really young. I grew up on a street where like all the other kids they were really close, and like I would hang out with all those kids, and we consider ourselves friends, but then like their birthday party would come around and I would be the only one not invited or things like that. So like that kind of dynamic was a lot of it. And it did feel like there were parts of it is because of what I looked like and who I was. I think there's aspects where like I couldn't always keep up as well as some of the other kids. So that was definitely like I got cut first from kickball or whatever. And then there's also this like I'm the tallest kid in school. So there's this like social currency that comes with like being seen talking to me or having like a story
Yes.
about me, but there's no social currency with being my actual friend. Like there were a lot of people who were like friendly to me in like
Yeah.
a diplomatic way, as if I'm like a representative from some like alien planet. And they're trying to get me not to like destroy the earth. That's kind of
Yes.
how kids interact with me. They're like, "Hello,
Yes.
are you enjoying school?" And I'm like, "Hi, I'm Liam. Can we be friends?" And they're like, "Hello." I'm like, "All right." So just there's this level of separation. I think partially because I didn't have the tools to explain why I looked different. People would just be like, "Oh, you just got to play basketball," and that's like over and over and over again, just like the only thing people would tell me, and the only thing people
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. Which is funny that I last year got into being a big NBA fan. Just never had any interest until last year, and then all of a sudden something clicked in my head, and here we are.
Oh,
I think it
so
was just
who's
like
that then? Is
being
that the Knicks or?
the Knicks, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I can hear people celebrating at the bar across the street out my window every time they win a game. So eventually, I was like, well, let me just see what the game's about,
What it's
because
about?
they were winning a lot. They were winning a lot. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I can get on board with like my city being happy about something. And then I was like, well, this is kind of fun. And then I saw like Wembanyama play, and I was like, oh, that's why everyone harasses me about basketball, because like that guy's there. I look like his skeleton. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, it's definitely different. But I think having the diagnosis really helped kind of arm me with, because people wanted to be my friend more post, like when I was a disabled kid, not just a tall kid, which is funny. Like I think it just gives you more stuff for people to latch onto.
Define the difference between disabled as opposed to tall.
Well, so I think it's just
Because
like knowing the origin of the tallness. So it's like when I was 11, I was diagnosed. So like that's when I became a disabled kid versus just a weirdly tall kid. Um, and so like they were just more willing to like, you'd be surprised at how good kids are at like dealing with other kids having disabilities if you express it in the right way to them. Like it was always like I got given like a little script by my doctor and I kind of like tweaked it. But when I was 11, I told my closest friends like, hey, from now on in gym, I can't do these parts of the runs. I have to like do this, this, and this. Like I have to, limit all these activities. Also, at recess, I can't like I can't get too carried away. I can't run super fast. So I can't like, play. I mean, I could, but it was like there's definitely I didn't even fully understand my boundaries, but whatever boundaries I did give these friends who like I didn't have a ton of super close friends in elementary school, but it was just I was telling all these people and they were pretty good about it. I'd say like a lot of people were like, the gym teacher gave me kind of some shit about sitting out of one of the challenge runs, and then one of them was like, "Well, he's got a disability, so that's okay." And I'm like, "All right." And so it's I think they once kids don't do well with like unknowns,
yes.
So like once they realized
Give
why I
them a
was
bit
super
of
tall,
information. Absolutely.
yeah, and then they're like,
Absolutely.
"Oh, he's not someone we need to be like a little bit afraid of and think needs to go play basketball. He's someone who, if anything, is like in a more vulnerable position than any of us."
As you've gotten older, have you made close friends?
Yeah, for sure. I have my best friend Ty Colgate. We tour together, so we both tour with the same headliner, and then we also tour just the two of us whenever we're off tour with the other guy. He's someone who I did my first ever comedy set at his show. Uh, so I did set out to do comedy to make friends, and I made one lifelong friend, and it happened to be the guy who was hosting the first show I ever did. So thank goodness I went to that one. Um, so we've just kind of been on this journey together. Like he gave me a big leg up early on, and then I kind of brought him onto this tour that we've been doing. And so we're both in New York now, and both just kind of trying to tackle the industry together, which is fun. And then I have a lot of friends in the comedy community that I'm close with, and then the friends I live with here in New York, they're Katie's, my fiance's friends, but I've known them since I was 18, so
Mhm.
they're my childhood friends as much as anyone else has childhood friends.
Yes.
And we've lived together for 3 years now, so I think there's definitely I have a good support system in my home. Like I ran a comedy show down the street here for a while, and just like seeing who all from like her community that I've kind of adopted came out to that, and just like the feeling there, I think I really got a sense of like when I first moved here, I got a sense of, oh, these people are also my friends. I just need to like accept that. You know what I mean?
Okay. The way you phrase that then made me think, are you sometimes a closed book? Are you ostensibly suspicious of people before you let them into your inner circle, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a kid, because I was so like constantly trying to like, I was very much like, hey, come to my house, let's hang out. Like I was like, I truly, for example, seventh grade, I had just come back from one of my bigger surgeries. This guy who I was like best friends with at the time was someone who was like actively orchestrating me being excluded from every party that was happening with all the boys in my grade, but also like hanging out with me individually and like acting like we were best friends. So it was
Yeah.
like it's just this
Yeah.
like I was so on board with being his best friend because I'm like as long as you're matching my energy when we're one on one hanging out and like you seem to be interested in me, love that. That kind of bit me there. He ended up moving to California, and then I made friends with another guy freshman year of high school who, I mean, did all sorts of crazy shit. He ended up we stopped being friends because while I was in the hospital for that chest repair surgery, he had been sleeping with my then girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
So they would be like, he would drive her to come visit me, and they would hook up in the parking lot of the hospital. And I found out about this because a random classmate of mine was coming to visit, saw it, freaked out, went home, came back in the middle of the night that night. He's kind of a crazy guy, but I love him to death. He broke into the hospital in the middle of the night. I don't know how he got there. He's fully a 17-year-old just like breaking into a major hospital. Got to my room. He comes in soaking wet. He's like, Liam, I saw something today and I have to tell you. I'm like, Mark, what are you doing here? So I got that broken to me like in the middle of the night, like 2 days before I left the hospital. So and I found out that like the two people I thought were like my closest people were just betraying me, which is crazy. So, and I think like I had been his friend. He was the type of guy who was like had a new best friend of the week kind of thing. It's like, oh, you're my
Yeah.
best friend, and like gets
Yeah.
really kind of like in on a
Yeah.
person. So I was like the first one he had latched onto at this school, and I was just
Yeah.
the only one who didn't drop him when he was shitty to me. And
Yeah.
I kept watching him do this with new people. Like he wouldn't treat me like his best friend. He'd have a new best friend every week. But then eventually, when he screwed over most of the people in the grade, I was one of the few
Yes.
people left. Then he did that to me. And was like, oh, then he started like begging to be my friend again. He's like, oh, texting me from her phone, like I'll stop hanging out with her. I'm like, okay, that
Fucking hell.
feels half-hearted when you're texting me from her phone because your phone is dead.
Wow.
Like,
Wow. Wow.
so I think
Yeah.
I just kind of like shut him out of my life completely, and I like successfully gave him the silent treatment. And the girlfriend was like, it's I didn't have as much resentment towards her because it was like she was a younger, less mature person. I just expected more from who I thought was like my best friend at the time.
Yes.
So yeah, it was just like I think the lack of like having because like, I had a best friend growing up, but I always felt like there was some like distance between the
Mm.
two of us. So I think that kind of led me to this pattern of like anytime someone didn't make me feel distant from them, I was like 100% in. And so it like led me down a couple of bad roads. But then early high school, I made like a group of 4 friends who were really solid, who I felt like I can really like stand by, and or 5 friends, and so we kind of went all the way through high school as friends, and we had like our graduation parties together, and so that was the first time I felt like I was like a core member of a friend group, and I think that helped kind of heal that a lot. But now I'm just
Pause.
I still consider some of those people like my closest friends, and then Ty, and then the people that I hang out with just in comedy. But I definitely have a more limited like network of friends now. I am definitely seeking out to make more like another close friend like I have in Ty, just because I think it's a lot to put that level of like friendship responsibilities on a single person. But yeah, I think I'm definitely in a healthier place with my like friendship dynamics. I'm less like needy socially now,
Yeah. You know what? I could talk to you all night, literally. I've noticed how you've become more and more relaxed as we've
Yeah, yeah.
started talking
I
and
enjoy
that,
podcasts.
which has been great here. Liam, you can only pick one person. I've got a feeling I know who you're gonna pick, but I'll ask anyway. Who's the most important person in your life?
Oh, my fiance for sure.
I knew you'd say that.
Yeah.
I knew you'd say that.
Can we
What if
clip
I said
this?
you were what if I said you were wrong? What if I
Oh, is
said
it
the
me?
most important
Is it me?
ah,
See, I can see where you're going with that. There it is. There it is. I don't know. I still think she tops me though. I think she still might be a little bit more important than me, but I'm getting there. I think
okay.
she's helping me value myself as much as I value her, like by proxy of like her being like, no, here, take some of this value you put on me and put it on yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've you use the phrase, you've got good energy.
I appreciate it.
You've got really, really good energy.
Thank you. Same to you. I've enjoyed this conversation a lot. You can tell you're a person who works in mental health by the way that you like very intentionally speak in the interview.
Okay.
It's like the opposite of a comedian interview. It's like the comedy interviews are always like us talking over each other the whole time, and I keep feeling like I'm like, oh, he's really letting me go. I like it.
Okay. Note to self. Okay. We're gonna wrap up now. You close your laptop. You go and see Casey.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe have something to eat if you haven't.
Got some meatballs right
and
here.
Then
went through lunch.
About a couple of hours after lunch, there's a knock at the door, and it's 11-year-old Liam. What do you say to him?
There's a very bright future ahead of you. I think you're gonna all these things that you're concerned about. That I mean, I essentially I'm lucky enough to where I got a version of that by going to Marfan conference at that age, because I met a guy, Chris Eny, who was in his 70s with Marfan syndrome, who reminded me a lot of myself, who passed away recently, rest in peace. But he like, yeah, I'd just try to give the same sentiment that he gave me, which is like, hey man, it gets way easier. Like, look at me, look at my life. Like, I just would like take him on a tour of what my life is now, and I think he'd be very happy with that. I think just showing him like, hey, here's your office. This is what you do. Here's the, comedy stuff that you've done. Like last summer you were traveling through, like, yeah, like you still got to deal with the hospital stuff, but like, guess what? 2 days before you were in the hospital last time, you were in Berlin doing a theater of 800 people. So it's like, you get to have those like highs with the lows. Like you don't have to pick one or the other. You can, you're going to have a very dynamic life.
Absolutely.
A lot of very high highs, very low lows, a lot of them right up next to each other. But yeah, I think there's just like, get excited, just keep doing what you're doing. I don't think I would change anything that I did to get to where I'm at today. I think because it very much like made me who I am. But yeah, just encouragement would be the biggest thing.
Liam Nelson, you've been an excellent guest on The Hurt Locker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it's a wrap, Tim.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching. Remember, you are not alone. If you or someone you care about is struggling with their mental health, please see the contact information in this episode's description for further support.